Okay. I think we're live. We are live. Awesome, awesome. Hey guys, it's Samantha Studebaker Carl here coming at you from beautiful Southwest Georgia, and we are the Mindset Mastery Collective. And if you're here with us, you are part of the Mindset Mastery Collective as well. And this is our good old awesome and amazing Saturday morning mindset call or show or whatever you want to call it. And I just wanted to say, you know, again, welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a few new people on the panel this morning. I want to go ahead and just have everybody just introduce themselves really quickly as, you know, before we get going here. And we've got Vicki DeVore, Sandy Root, Dan Smith, Catherine Clement, Daniel DeLyons. And guys, just whoever feels like jumping out first, jump out there and say, hey, where you're from. And but, you know, one other thing we've started doing just recently was, you know, what you kind of hope to get from being a part of this mastermind. So if you wanted to add that in, that'd be great, too.
Well, hey, everybody. I'll go ahead and jump out since I guess I'm the newest person to come on. I really want to thank everybody, and thank you, Samantha, for inviting me to kind of be on the panel. I'm loving all this stuff, and I'm loving the mastermind, and of course what I'm hoping to get out of it, especially with this book, is the better understanding of it and put all the principles to work. So I just love all you guys, and I've been following you just in you know, just by watching for quite a bit, but like I say, I'm just honored to be here, so thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Danielle DeLyons. I live out here in Anaheim, California, near Disneyland, and excited as well. Thank you so much for the invitation, Samantha. I hope to gain a better understanding, first, of ourselves. We always have to start with ourselves and understanding ourselves before we can reach out to others. And I love a better understanding of how I can grow to be more beneficial to others. So that's why I'm here.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is Dan Smith. I live in Boise, Idaho, and yeah, kind of like the other people, you know, you understand other people through understanding yourself, and that's what I've been working on for a number of years. And can't say that I've got myself figured out yet, but I do know a little bit more about human nature and what makes me tick than I ever have before. And PSYCHO CYBERNETICS is kind of, for me, PSYCHO CYBERNETICS is a bathroom book. I keep books in my bathroom because, you know, face it, we all have to do a little bit of bathroom time every day, and that's a book that just never leaves that place because I'm in it, off and on, have been for years. So it's a great book, and excited to be here today. Thanks for coming.
Good morning. I'm Sandy Root here in Brooklyn, New York. Sunny summer day. And yeah, I just love to do my personal development every day, so it's nice to have a nice Saturday morning one to get it in for the weekend. So I'm always happy to be here. Been here for, what is it now, Samantha? Over a year now. Wow, it's amazing. So it's just a part of me to be here now, and so yeah, I just love it. Thanks for all who came.
Hello, it's Catherine from Boulder, Colorado, and I'm just happy to be here. It's a beautiful sunny day here too, Sandy, and just enjoying hanging out with you guys. I'm working on my communication skills, so whether that's reading and getting what I glean from it, and then hearing what other people glean from it, and learning how they take it in and how I take it in, and then communicating verbally and talking to each other over this hangout. That's really helping me with communication. So plus I just love hanging out with these cool people, so that's why I'm here.
Awesome, guys. Okay, that was everybody, right? I think so. We've got so many people on the panel now. It's wonderful how much our you know, the Saturday Morning Mastermind has grown over the past year. And you know, my main reason for starting this in the first place was because I knew that if I wanted to have more success in my life, if I wanted to grow as a person in my life, I needed to be studying these personal development books and digging more into the principles of success and all of those different kinds of things. And I figured, you know, if I needed to work on it, everybody else out there needed to work on it too. And so I wanted to just create this mastermind so that we could all come together, study these principles, share our insights on them, because I think that's a huge part of it right there, is that, you know, you can read a book yourself and gain some level of understanding to it, but yet when you bring in other people and they share their insights on it, then we all grow exponentially compared to what we would if we were just reading it ourselves. And another suggestion that I have for you guys also is that not only to just read the book, but to get the audio version of the book as well, because I've noticed over the years that, you know, when I read it, I get one thing. When I listen to it, I hear other things, and then of course when we have a big discussion about it like we do here weekly, I get even more out of it, and that just helps us all to grow so much faster. And just in case you're brand new to our call, we're studying the book The New PSYCHO CYBERNETICS by Maxwell Maltz. And if you do not have a copy of this book, then hit up either, you know, any of us here in the panel and just let us know that you would like a PDF version of this book, and we'd be happy to get it to you. And I just wanted to also say, you know, wherever you are out there in the world, go ahead and comment below the video and just let us know that you're hanging out with us, where you are in the world, and what you hope to accomplish by, you know, participating in this mastermind. You know, this book, like Sandy was saying, we've been studying it for about a year now, and believe it or not, we're only about halfway through the book, which is just amazing to me. But, you know, the great thing is that because we're taking this, you know, in-depth time, you know, really digging through each one of these little sections that we're reading, is that we're, you know, we're getting so much more out of it. And, but if you're brand new, I just want to kind of, you know, give you just a brief overview of what this book boils down to, so that you can kind of catch up to where we are. And basically, it is all about reprogramming your brain. You know, Maxwell Maltz has suggested that, you know, we act according to what we see ourselves as. We act according to how we see ourselves as far as our self-image. And that if you can, and the other thing is that you can choose what you want your self-image to be. So if your self-image is not serving you, if your vision of yourself is actually bringing you less success, or causing you to be depressed, or causing you to, you know, not have the success that you want, that you, by reading this book and studying the principles, that you can literally reprogram your brain so that you can have the success, be the person, become anything it is that you want to become. So that's kind of the general overview. Now, the section that we're in right now, which is Chapter 9, is all about identifying the print. Let's see here. Well, let me just get to the beginning. I'll just read off the title of it. But it was like, it says, how to avoid accidentally activating your automatic failure mechanism. And of course, when it's talking about the automatic mechanism, it's talking about your guiding principles inside yourself. So that's basically your self-image. So if you can avoid doing the things unsuccessful people do by recognizing these different automatic failure, you know, traits, then by avoiding these things, when they come up in your life, you actually point yourself in the direction that you want to go. So far we've talked about frustration, aggressiveness, insecurity, loneliness, uncertainty, and resentment. And last week, oh, and that kind of reminds me, before I say that though, did we, in the middle of the section that was called emptiness, or was it, did we start at the beginning of that? Daniel, I can't remember where you stopped reading. Do you remember? I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, I realized I was muted. We ended at the bottom of, on the PDF 176, where it says emptiness is not a way that wins. We were going to start right there.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, before we go forward, guys, I meant to do this at the beginning, but I just want to say thank you so much, guys, last week for hosting the show, Sandy, and, I really appreciate everything you guys shared on the show last week. I just, I had to go and be at the hospital for a family member and wasn't able to participate, but I was able to listen to the show, and I just want to say, you guys, I can feel the love coming out of you, and I can feel all of the amazing that you guys are putting out into the world, and I just want you to know I love you guys. I mean, you're just absolutely awesome, and I'm so glad to have you on here, and thank you so much for last week. So, okay, one more thing before we move forward. This week I actually listened in on a big webinar, or I guess I don't know, presentation, whatever you want to call it, that was called Consciousness Engineering. And I really, really loved this program because it talks a lot about what we study in this book, and basically is talking about how we have all literally been programmed by everything that has happened up until this point in our lives, and that reality is based on what we believe it to be versus, maybe what we think it is. And hopefully that makes sense. That kind of makes sense. But what it boils down to is that we have so much more power inside of us in order to change our reality than what we realize. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually share the link to this webinar on the event page here, as well as I'm going to put it in the Mindset Mastery Collective.com community, so that you have access to that, because I feel like that is a really important thing for everybody to listen to. It's about a 90-minute program, and in the close to the end of that program, Vishen, I think that's what his name was, he gives a 6-step meditation that I thought was just absolutely super awesomely powerful. I've been doing it the past couple of days ever since I was on that webinar, and I've just been feeling amazing. And but anyway, the guy that put on this webinar he basically started with $700, and now he has a multi-million company that he created in just a few years, all because of the way that he changed his thinking, he changed his conscious beliefs of what is actually possible for us. So I'm going to post those really quickly in below here in the event, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the next section. And you guys, whoever wants to volunteer to read that next section will be awesome, because my throat is a little irritated today. So whoever wants to jump out and start reading, that would be awesome while I'm posting this.
I'd be happy to continue since I started it. I couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to start under where emptiness is not a way that wins. Emptiness, once experienced, can become a way of avoiding effort, work, and responsibility. It becomes an excuse or a justification for non-creative living. If all is vanity, if there is no new thing under the sun, if there is no joy to be found anyway, why bother? Why try? If life is just a treadmill, if we work 8 hours a day so that we can afford a house to sleep in, so that we can sleep 8 hours to become rested for another day's work, why get excited about it? All these intellectual reasons vanish, however, and we experience joy and satisfaction when once we get off the treadmill, stop going around and around in circles, and select a goal worth striving for, and go after it. Emptiness and an inadequate self-image go together. Emptiness may also be the symptom of an inadequate self-image. It is impossible to psychologically accept something that you feel does not belong to you or that is not consistent with yourself. Those who hold an unworthy and undeserving self-image may hold their negative tendencies in check long enough to achieve a genuine success, then be unable to accept it psychologically and enjoy it. They may even feel guilty about it, as if they had stolen it. Their negative self-image may even spur them on to achievement by the well-known principle of overcompensation. But I do not subscribe to the theory that one should be proud of an inferiority complex or thankful for it just because it sometimes leads to external symbols of success. When success finally comes, such persons feel that sense of satisfaction or accomplishment. They are unable to take credit in their own minds for their accomplishments. To the world, they are a success. They themselves still feel inferior, undeserving, almost as if they were thieves and had stolen the status symbols that they thought were so important. If my friends and associates really know what a phony I am, they think. This reaction is so common that psychiatrists refer to it as the success rejection syndrome. The man who feels guilty, insecure, and anxious when he realizes he has succeeded. Only striving for goals that are important to you, not as status symbols, but because they are consistent with your own deep inner wants, is helpful. Striving for real success, for your success through creative accomplishment, brings a deep inner satisfaction. Striving for a phony success to please others brings a phony satisfaction. Did we want to go into that mental exercise training, Samantha? Did you want me to read into that as well?
Yes, sorry, I was on a different page there and had to come back over and
okay.
unmute myself. But
okay. Okay, we're going to do a mental training exercises. Awareness, accomplishment, acknowledgement, and prompt reaction to a slumbering automatic failure mechanism awakening and attempting to distract you with failure is important. Glance at negatives, but focus on positives. Automobiles come equipped with negative indicators placed directly in front of the driver to tell you when the battery is not charging, when the engine is becoming too hot, when the oil pressure is becoming too low, etc. To ignore these negatives might ruin your car. However, there is no need to become unduly upset if a negative signal flashes. You merely stop at a service station or a garage and take positive action to correct the problem. A negative signal does not mean the car is no good. All cars overheat at times. However, the driver of the automobile does not look at the control panel exclusively and continuously. To do so might be disastrous. She must focus her gaze through the windshield, look where she is going, and keep her primary attention on her goal, where she wants to go. She merely glances at the negative indicators from time to time. When she does not fix on them or dwell on them. She quickly focuses her sight ahead again and concentrates on the positive goal of where she wants to go. How to use negative thinking. We should adopt a similar attitude about our own negative symptoms. I'm a firm believer in negative thinking when used correctly. We need to be aware of negatives so that we can steer clear of them. A golfer needs to know where the bunkers and sand traps are, but he doesn't think continuously about the bunker, where he doesn't want to go. His mind glances at the bunker, but dwells on the green. Used correctly, this type of negative thinking can work for us to lead us to success if, 1, we are sensitive to the negative to the extent that it can alert us to danger. 2, we recognize the negative for what it is, something undesirable, something we don't want, something that does not bring genuine happiness. 3, we take immediate corrective action and substitute an opposite positive factor from the success mechanism. Such practice will in time create a sort of automatic reflex that becomes a part of our inner guidance system. Negative feedback will act as a sort of automatic control to help us steer clear of failure and guide us to success. Take a few minutes toward the conclusion of each day or midday and at day's end if you can. Find a quiet place, close your eyes, enter your imagination so as to revisit the day's events and your behavior. Congratulate yourself on all your automatic success mechanism reflective actions, but take note of automatic failure mechanism warning lights quietly flashing on the dashboard. Tell yourself that automatic failure mechanism behavior is not you. It is not to be tolerated. If corrections can be made for any that occurred, by all means make them. Be the bigger person by calling or going to see anyone who may deserve your apology, your gratitude, or your congratulations. Analyze your thoughts and actions of the day in terms of contributing toward achieving your goals. Even measure your ratio of automatic success mechanisms versus automatic failure mechanism driven activity. Then resolve to improve that ratio. Do not fear self-analysis. Strike with self-coaching, avoid self-loathing. Stick with self-coaching and avoid self-loathing. Conclude your private critique of the day by identifying positives you can build on and a recommendation to your goals and ideals.
I love the way that it talks about recognizing the negative for what it is, undesirable, that we don't want, that is going to be something that does not bring genuine happiness. And when we can start to recognize things coming up in our life and take corrective action, where it was talking about substituting the opposite positive reaction, instead of continuing with that negative reaction. Because, of course, as we've been learning throughout this book, is that so much of our reaction to emotional situations or frustrations or that sort of thing are actually habits that we've created over time, and that we have the capability to change those habits. And of course, this chapter is all about recognizing these negative emotions and these negative things in our lives, whereas chapter 8, the one that was right before this, was all about recognizing the success type traits. And so if we go back into chapter 8, some of the most simple ones, a lot of times if you're going towards something that you're trying to achieve and you have frustration, you're upset about it, or you're confused, or you're overwhelmed, or any number of those things, is typical kind of a depression come over you, or just a sense of, I don't know if I can do this, or those sorts of things. Whereas if you jump back into chapter 8, it talks about having a good sense of direction, and when you can just think again of what your ultimate goal is, and just start taking that action and being like, you know what, okay, yeah, I'm having these weird feelings, things aren't going how I expected, but yet I know where I'm going, and I'm just going to keep going. Sometimes just taking that action in the direction that you want to go is enough to kind of start to dispel those negative feelings that are coming up inside of you. So those are just my at the top here real quick. So anybody feel free to share your thoughts before we jump to chapter 10.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. I think it's really interesting the success, or the first portion that was reading there, where it's talking about people who are uncomfortable with success. I mean, you strive and strive for success, and when you finally get it, you can't handle it. And I remember hearing years and years ago a guy named Bill Britt. He just recently died, but he had one of the largest multi-level marketing businesses in the world, and hearing him talking about that, and that unless you grow into it, then you can't handle it. It's like the people who get who win in the lotteries, and then 5 years later they're bankrupt. They might win whatever, $50 million or whatever. It doesn't matter what the amount is, but they didn't grow into it, and mentally they're not prepared to handle it, and they will generally blow it. And something that what we're doing here, we're trying to figure out how to program ourselves for success, program ourselves for better things. And an exercise I was going through, or some other materials I've been going through here lately, and I had a thought that popped into my head that I hadn't thought about since I was a little child. But when you talk about programming and the way that your family programs you, and I want to share this. Well, there's like 3 of them here that have popped, but one just really popped in my mind really strong the other day. And I used to always hear my mom talking about people that were money mad. So anybody who is successful in my mother's mind Well, they were money mad. As you know, I mean, you ever see the old movie trailer for the show Reefer Madness, and they showed people that was smoking joints, and they had like 5 joints in their mouth, and their eyes was big, and they was absolutely crazy. Well, that's kind of the way that my family viewed anybody that had more money than they did. You know, anybody that had more success than what my family had, they were money mad, and that was one of the thoughts, or, you know, one of the things that my mom used to talk about all the time, that people were money mad. But another thing that you know, I can remember sharing my dreams and my thoughts and my goals when I was just a little kid, you know, and hearing, well, you can't have everything you want just because you want it. You know, that was one of the things I was programmed with. But this is the one that really stood out to me, and it just popped into my mind the other day, just out of nowhere, out of the blue, and I hadn't thought about it since I was a little child. But obviously it was there lying in my mind, and the thought is this, and when I got in trouble and I was being corrected when I was a child, and here's a thought: you should be ashamed of yourself. And that popped into my mind the other day, and I hadn't thought about that since I was a little child. You should be ashamed of yourself. And so every time, you know, when you're like, you're having some success, or you're doing whatever, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, and these little thoughts that are there just below the surface in your subconscious mind, and they're lodged there, and it's like digging out a weed. It's like taking a shovel and going out into the dirt and digging out deep. You got to go down to the root, you know. And a thought like that, you should be ashamed of yourself. Why? What, you know, what did I do? You know, somebody please explain that to me. And these are the thoughts, the subconscious thoughts that lie there dormant within your mind for years. So I'm going to turn it over to somebody else. I didn't mean to capitalize the whole conversation.
I think we all resonate with what Dan said, because that last one you hit on, Dan, I'm glad you took the time to explain that. I think that's one of the big ones that even as a mom, I probably said that to my own children, and then realized that we should never have to be ashamed for our actions. And we're taught such negative things from a young age about money doesn't grow on trees. And just those little tiny things that plant seeds that create our thoughts as we grow older. And I'll tell you, these exercises, going through this program, has opened my eyes to things around me so much more than just about anything I've read so far. So thank you for sharing that. I think that was great.
You know, I can I'll jump out for just half a second, because thank you, Dan, because boy, you just hit a lot of my same issues. I think we all kind of grew up with, like you said, negative programming, because that's what our parents had, and, you know, family members and grandparents or whoever, even society. I remember having a picture of my dream house that I wanted to build, and here I am, I'm in my 40s. You know, I wanted to dream it, and I was all I wanted to build it, and I was all excited. And so I showed the picture to my dad, and guess what his first words were? You don't need something that big. So, you know, it sets up, why dream? Then I had to realize, and of course through this program and through the personal development that I'm coming across, that was his issue. That was his upbringing, from being born in the Depression, from having things, or even my stepmom, the same thing. You know, you can ask for anything you want for Christmas or your birthday or anything. You can ask for anything. Doesn't mean you're going to get it. So that's why I'm on this. That's why I'm on this journey, is to know that the thoughts and the dreams that I have been implanted in me by my higher power, by God. He's designed my future. He's designed who I'm supposed to be. And I'm just, through all of this, I'm developing the courage to forge my path. So thank you both Danielle and Dan for this. And I mean, like I say, I'm loving this. So I'll turn it over to somebody else.
Who's next? Who's next? I'll jump out. You know, my grandmother raised me, and again, coming from the Depression years and all that. So I got all these messages, and I was one of those good moms that told my kids, you guys can do anything you set your mind to. And then I also gifted them with my poverty mindset. So sorry, kids, I'm trying to rework that now. Please listen or watch the show, okay? Or this mastermind. The only thing I can say, what I've come to now through lots of mindset work and reading books like this and talking with other people, is that thank God for those money mad people, Dan, because if those people weren't there, I would never know that that was even possible, because my mind was never allowed to go there, because of those programmings and things. So if those people weren't out there making that money and showing me that lifestyle and showing me that those things are even possible, I wouldn't even know they existed. It's like a completely different world to me. So thank God for the money mad people, Dan.
Now, if anybody else wanted to jump out, Sandy, are you there? You're frozen.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, my
Okay.
computer's being wacky. I'm in the dark here. My lights aren't working, but okay, I'm here. Yeah, I was just being reminded of all that you're saying, everyone's saying, about you should be ashamed of yourself. I think I've shared in past Hangouts that I sometimes go to these sessions called bioenergetics or core energetics, where you're using your body to get rid of, repressed stuff. So you're like beating pillows and screaming and crying and thrashing around, having temper tantrums. And I really love the work. And what he does, the practitioner, is really helps me sort of link past stuff, or through emoting, things come out that like old memories that were totally repressed. Like I'm like, wow, I never remembered that until this session. And I go through these things, well, like I shouldn't be looking at the past, but then I'm seeing how those past things are manifesting in my life. So there was like all this guilt around my mother, like how I feel, how she guilt trips me, and how it was manifesting into a relationship with a man. And so it's things like that I'm becoming aware of through these sessions, like old sayings like that, like you should be ashamed of yourself. So it's really healing to remember it and then be able to let it go at that point, because we can't really let go of the things until we become aware of them too. So when I'm like, oh wow, remembering something from when I was 2 years old that I'm still playing over and over in my life, decades later, to be able to let it go through these sessions is such an amazing feeling. And this book is really helping too to become aware of those things, like Dan was saying. So yeah, I just wanted to add that, and I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, Dan, you started a big conversation about this. You should be ashamed of yourself, because I've got a lot of thoughts on that too. And one of them is that, a lot of times people are afraid to make mistakes because they were told you should be ashamed of yourself when they made a mistake when they were young. And yet, we know if you study any kind of personal development, if you're following anyone who, it makes a lot of money, like the mad money people, you know that you have to make mistakes in order to move forward. You have to make mistakes and grow as a person. And if the thing that is keeping you from making mistakes is this, fear that you're going to be ashamed for having made the mistakes, I mean, imagine how many things you're holding yourself back from just because of that one simple thing that maybe your parents said to you when you were young. And, and teachers at school, they've done the same thing to us. It's like you're afraid to do anything wrong because you might fail. You'll get an F, this big red F on your paper if you do something wrong, if you get the wrong answer or whatever. And, in life there is no wrong answers. There's only, things that you make mistakes. It didn't work out, and so you try something different to move in the direction that you want to go, and just keep focused on what it is that you want in your life. And when these negative thoughts come up and they start to, if you feel like you're being hindered in some way, like what Sandy was talking about with the bioenergetics, that sounds like a lot of fun, Sandy, to just go beat those things out in a pillow. I mean, that'd be awesome. I know you mentioned that a couple times back, and I never did look that up, and I need to do that because I think that's awesome. We should just have a session where we all get on here and beat up pillows. Like, dang it.
It's kind of fun. It's awesome. I love it.
Okay, so we still have quite a bit, so we can go ahead and jump into Chapter 10. But before we do that, I just want to say, hey to some of the folks that are out here on the page and commenting. Hi, hey Elizabeth, Sack, hey Sack, how's it going? Oh, hey, I lose my page here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Rose, good morning, Rose. Cindy, sorry. Karen, John, welcome. Tiffany. Susan, if you have any thoughts on what we're talking about, go ahead and add them up here to the page. Let us know what you're thinking about these. You should be ashamed of yourself, or like Vicki was saying, you don't need this. That's something that comes up for me a lot. I will go to the grocery store and I'll see something there that I want, and I won't let myself get it because I'll sit there and say, oh, you don't need this, and how crazy is that? It's like recently, one of the things that I've been kind of working on with myself, I don't have a car myself. I don't have my own car because I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't have to be at a job. I just pretty much do whatever I feel like doing. And so one of the things is I want to have a Jeep. I really would like to have one of those Jeeps where you take the sides off and the top off and it's just all open. I think that would be fun to drive around in, but I keep having this thing coming up in my head that says, you don't need that. You don't need a car. What do you need a car for, And yet I see that, I realize that is a block that's inside of myself. It doesn't matter whether I need it, I think it'd be cool to have, right? So that's one of the things I'm working on. But okay, so who wants to go ahead and jump in and start into Chapter 10?
I can do it.
Okay.
Okay. Chapter 10, How to Remove Emotional Scars and Give Yourself an Emotional Facelift. Yay! Anger is really disappointed hope. Erica Chong. The facelift business is booming. Cosmetic surgery profession revenues have increased by double-digit percentages each year for the past handful of years. You now see mass television advertising offering any combination of procedures desired. Nose, ears, throat, whole facelift, breast enlargement, buttocks improvement, tummy tuck, for a set monthly payment akin to buying a car on payments. Still, many people seeking emotional salvation and satisfaction from the surgical scalpel will wake up with a new face or better sculpted body, but with old disappointment and frustration. I and others have learned a great deal about PSYCHO CYBERNETICS in the more than 50 years that have passed since I first began drawing the connection between patients coming to my office seeking to correct scars in their outer image and the existence of scars hidden away on their inner image or self-image. However, the fundamental analogy is every bit as valid as when first uncovered and recognized. As a medical doctor and surgeon, I have performed countless operations of reconstructive as well as cosmetic facial surgery and been privileged to lecture on such clinical techniques all over the world. Yet I have never become jaded about the miraculous systems built into the human body. For example, when you receive a physical injury, such as a cut on the face, your body automatically forms scar tissue, which is both tougher and thicker than the original flesh. Excuse me. The purpose of the scar tissue is to form a protective cover or shell, nature's way of ensuring against another injury in the same place. If an ill-fitting shoe rubs against a sensitive part of your foot, the first result is pain and sensitiveness. But again, nature protects against further pain and injury by forming a callus, a protective shell. We are inclined to do very much the same thing whenever we receive an emotional injury, when someone hurts us or rubs us the wrong way. We form emotional or spiritual scars for self-protection. We are very apt to become hardened of heart, callous toward the world, and to withdraw within a protective emotional shell of one kind or another. What we can learn when nature needs an assist. In forming scar tissue, it is nature's intention to be helpful. In our modern society, however, scar tissue, especially on the face, can work against us instead of for us. Take George T., for example, a promising young attorney. He was affable, personable, and well on his way to a successful career when he had an automobile accident, which left him with a horrible scar from midway on his left cheek to the left corner of his mouth. Another cut just over his right eye pulled his upper eyelid up tightly when it healed, which gave him a grotesque, glaring appearance. Every time he looked in the bathroom mirror, he saw a repulsive image. The scar on his cheek gave him a perpetual leer, or what he called an evil look. After leaving the hospital, he lost his first case in court and was sure that his evil and grotesque appearance had influenced the jury. He felt that old friends were repelled and repulsed by his appearance. Was it only his imagination that even his own wife flinched slightly when he kissed her? George T. began to turn down cases. He started drinking during the day. He became irritable, hostile, and something of a recluse. The scar tissue on his face formed a tough protection against future automobile accidents. But in the society in which George lived, physical injuries to his face were not the primary hazard. He was more vulnerable than ever to social cuts, injuries, and hurts. His scars were a liability instead of an asset. Had George been a primitive man and suffered facial scars from an encounter with a bear or a saber-toothed tiger, his scars would have probably made him more acceptable to his fellows. Even in fairly recent times, old soldiers have proudly displayed their scars of battle. I suspect the same is true of young toughs in inner-city gangs. In George's case, nature had good intentions, but nature needed an assist. I gave George back his old face by plastic surgery, which removed the scar tissue and restored his features. Following surgery, the personality change in him was remarkable. He became his good-natured, self-confident self again. He stopped drinking, he gave up his lone wolf attitude, moved back into society, and became a member of the human race again. He literally found a new life. This new life, however, was brought about only indirectly by plastic surgery on physical tissue. The real curative agent was the removal of emotional scars, the security against social cuts, the healing of emotional hurts and injuries, and the restoration of his self-image as an acceptable member of society, which in his case surgery made possible. Most people build up a considerable amount of scar tissue on their self-images with no correlation whatsoever to actual physical disfigurement that can be solved by a skilled surgeon with a scalpel. How emotional scars alienate you from life. Shall I continue?
Does anybody want to chat on that first section there before we go forward? Do they have anything that they want to talk about? I thought it was kind of interesting how, how in one situation somebody can get a scar and have it, literally change everything about their life, in a negative way. And yet how someone else, like he was talking about, soldiers and that sort of thing, change their life, and yet it'll be a badge of honor. Similarly, he talked about this earlier in the book also when he was first discussing how he found it very fascinating that one person can have a physical disformity, and when he changes it, everything turns wonderful, and another person can have a physical disformity and he changes it and nothing changes about them. They're still the same person they were before, even though they look completely different. And so he was talking about how one person can have this negative feeling about a physical something, and someone else can have a completely opposite feeling about a same or similar type of injury, and he brought up the I think it was like hockey players or something. You know, like most people, you get a tooth knocked out, and you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, I don't want to smile again. But yet, if you're a hockey player and you get a tooth knocked out, it's like a badge of honor, right? And so I thought that that was just an interesting thing that, you know, literally it's all in how you see things. It's all in your point of view, or your version of reality and what it means to you. So I thought that that was something really fascinating.
And, you know, it can go more than just like a physical scar, like a hurt. It could be your weight. That's been one of my emotional scars for years. I gained a tremendous amount of weight after being very fit, and I got very, very sick. And it's altered my perception of myself and how other people responded to me. And overhearing comments a few years ago when I was with another company, I had been on a stage earlier that day, and I heard a group of people talking, my goodness, she needs to lose some weight. My goodness, she doesn't look healthy. And that really hurt because they didn't know the story of why I put on the weight, why I was struggling with my weight, and I beat myself up enough about it. I didn't need their help. So we react a certain way, and now I've gone down the other way, and I've dropped about 80 pounds. I still have a ways to go. But the reaction I get from society now, they're like, oh my gosh, what a transformation. You look amazing, and it feels so great. So we do this in different ways with different types of scars that are physically out there for people to see.
I got a couple of quotes here that I share with you. One of them is that the world will think no more of you than you think of yourself. And the other one is, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And the first one, I don't know where I picked that up. I've just got it somewhere over the years. But the second one, I believe, was Eleanor Roosevelt that said that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And so, yeah, that's a choice that we make. And it's all attitude. It's all the attitude that you take about yourself. I flunked the second grade. I was when I went into school, you know, my granddaughter's birthday is going to be next week. And we're having a party not too long after this gets over today, a birthday party for my 3-year-old granddaughter. And when she already knows her ABCs and she can count like up to 11. My mother never taught me anything when I was a child before I went to school. So I came into school in the first grade, and I didn't know nothing. I didn't know the ABCs. I didn't know how to count to 10. I didn't know anything. I mean, I came in there totally raw, and I really was not interested in school. I had no interest whatsoever in being there. I sat and stared out the window. So actually, I flunked the second grade. And after flunking the second grade, I mean, I pretty much aced it the second time around. It was no problem. But my family was extremely poor, and I mean, there's broke and no money, but then there's a mentality that is poor, and my family was poor. Somebody else mentioned earlier their folks came through the Depression. Well, yeah, my folks were Depression people, and mentally they were broken. And so the house that I lived in, I mean, it was such a shack that really I got off the bus way down the street and walked home from there because I didn't want anybody to see where I lived. And I mean, all these different things that played into that. And so as I went through school, I got into track when I was in the 6th grade. I started high jumping. So 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, I was in high school, and I aced every track meet that I was in. I took first place in every single track meet in high jump. But the success was never a real success. And why it wasn't a real success for me in my mind was because I flunked the second grade. And so it was like I was a year older than all the other kids I was competing against. So in my mind, that's not fair. It's not a real success. I didn't really earn it because technically, you know, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. I mean, even to this day, I don't know. I can't tell you one way or another. But in my mind, any success that I did have wasn't real success. It really wasn't earned because I thought that poor people were dumb, and since I lived in the shack and my family was poor, that I was dumb. That's why I flunked second grade. it was this just like a snowball effect, and so the success, any success that I did have, wasn't real success because it was competing against kids that were a year younger than me. And so anyway, that I don't know where I'm going with this exactly, rambling on here in a sense, but it wasn't until I started learning about self-improvement and that type of thing that I'm not competing with anybody else. I'm only competing with myself, and I'm competing with the best that I've ever done, and how can I do better than what I've ever done. And like I said, the world will think no more of you than what you think of yourself, and no one can make you feel inferior about yourself without your consent. So I'll pass it over to somebody else.
That's a good point, Dan. I appreciate you sharing that quote with us, because that is so true. If we look at, there's so many different things out there that we can, or people out there that, we can see this exact same thing kind of play out where, somebody has a massive injury, and, one person can, be like paralyzed from the neck down and basically just lay there for the rest of their life and just be depressed and have a horrible life, and yet another person could have the exact same thing happen with them, and then go on to be an inspiration to millions and millions of people and just be a very successful individual, all because of this injury that they have. And I find that it's so fascinating because it all is, it's all what you allow yourself to believe. And like you were saying, Danny, nobody can hurt you if you don't allow them to. And, so I think that's a super powerful thing for everybody to just kind of remember that, you are your own worst enemy when it comes to those kinds of things, we all have done it to ourselves in one way or another, but when we can recognize it, like in the previous chapter, when we recognize those negative things coming up in our lives and we can switch those out with a positive one, that's when we actually start to have change in our lives. That has been one of the biggest things for me over, I want to say it's been probably 8 years since I started into seriously delving into personal development and really beginning to apply the things that I've learned. And then in this past year, I've just gone full force with it. It's just been that's my passion now. And the reason why is because I'm realizing that, for so long, it's like my life up until this point has all been because of outside influences. I've let things influence me that I shouldn't have, or that I didn't know any better not to. And now that I realize that we literally can take control of the emotions, we can take control of our traits, our habits, all those different things, and start to build the person that we want to be, regardless of what anyone else says, regardless of whether or not people think that we can do it, and know that you have the power within yourself to become whatever it is you want to be. So, that's one of the biggest reasons why we study stuff like this is just to open our eyes, open our minds to the possibility that there's more than what we've ever thought was possible. But we're coming up on the top of the hour, so I think we should just go ahead and stop here, and then next week we can talk about how emotional scars alienate you from life, and then how you can kind of work through those things. So that's what this whole next chapter is going to be about. So I encourage you all to kind of dig through your emotions, dig through your life, and start identifying some of these things that, like we've all been talking about here, is to start identifying the things that are holding you back, that are not serving you. That's the biggest key right there, is if something that you believe or feel is not serving you, if it's holding you back, then it's something that you need to really question inside of yourself as to whether or not this is really true. But yeah, if you guys have anything else you want to add before we wrap this up, go ahead and jump on out.
Samantha, I've got one thing. Since we're talking about emotional scars and pain and the negative and all those kind of things, of course, all of that causes pain. And I'm real big into acronyms and things like that. But not too long ago, I saw a little clip of Ilana Van Zandt with an interview with Oprah, and they were talking about pain. And so Oprah kind of asked her about pain, and she says, well, you know what pain is. And Oprah says, well, yeah, but how do you describe pain? She says, pain means to pay attention inwardly now. That was very profound for me, because whether we're talking about the emotional scars, kind of like with this, or we're talking about, scars placed upon us behaviorally or even by society, is that the first thing it seems like that we need to do is, when this happens, is, like you said, and just now, is kind of step back and try to evaluate or address, or at least name the pain that's associated with it, and then turn inward, because there's another quote that says, you're either within or you're without. You either go within or you're going to go without. So when I heard that about the acronym for pain, I just went, that was so profound. So that's my little last 2 cents.
That's a good one, Vicki. I hadn't heard that one before, but as someone that deals with chronic pain daily, I can tell you that we all have our challenges, and for some people it's physical, and some people it's emotional, and quite often it's both. Because those emotional scars, especially when we're young, they can manifest into physical things. And I don't know if it's a vibration of energy that gets trapped in the body and then it attracts like energy. I'm still working on figuring all that out, but I can definitely tell you that, it's a journey for all of us. We all have our challenges, and we never know what the other one's facing. And so, like you were saying, Danielle, you were beating yourself up enough. You didn't need someone else to beat you up. And I just want to say that sometimes, and I'm speaking to myself here, in this arena that we find ourselves in, this mindset arena, and this, you can be anything you want to be and change your life arena. Sometimes we have a tendency to look at someone else and say, oh, well, if they would just, change their mindset, everything would go away. Please be careful about that, because without knowing it, you can be quite cruel to someone. They're already beating themselves up over something, or they're struggling to get through their day, and maybe all their mindset work is the only reason they're able to have a conversation with you at all, because that's just been able to get them out of the bed that day or whatever. So they never know what someone else is going through. So just be supportive, recognize the challenges that you face, and know that other people are facing as many, if not more, and just be kind to yourself and to others. And yes, we have to give ourselves checks, which is what I love about sitting here with you guys and talking with you, and realizing that we really are all so much alike. And thank goodness, even when was this written, in the 30s or something? Isn't it amazing how we're still just all alike, all these years and years later? So it's good to come together. It's good to work on mindset. But again, my message is always be kind to yourself and others. Thank you, everyone, for showing up today. We've had an amazing hangout. Thank you so much.
Any final thoughts? Okay, there you go.
That's always a great reminder, Catherine, you never know what somebody else is going through. And, when I'm having my own challenges, it reminds me, when I'm, in a good place, to remember that when I was in that challenge, how I felt, so many others are going through that in the current moment, that I may be feeling awesome and great. So to just always, remember that, and treat everyone with kindness, because you really, really never know what somebody is going through on the inside. So just always a great reminder. So I'm glad you brought that up. And thanks to everyone who came and watched us today. There has a lot of interaction in the page, so it's nice to see that. Awesome. Have a great day, everybody.
Yeah, I would just add that, you know, as we go through our lives, we can be what's called under the circumstances, and the circumstances are the circumstances of your life. And you can allow those circumstances to pile up on top of you. You can allow the circumstances of life to control your life, and think that you are in a position that you're not in a position to do anything about circumstances, because after all, circumstances are so big and so powerful, and you're so small. How could you ever do anything about it? And so the reason why we read Psycho Cybernetics or Think and Grow Rich or all these other books that we read is because of the discovery that you can change your life when you change your thoughts. And so you can allow yourself to be under the circumstances, or you can mentally project forward in your life, keep your eyes on the prize, and it's like driving in a car. You have a windshield that's big, and then you have a rear view mirror that's small. And you look through the windshield, but you glance at the rear view mirror. And all the problems and the circumstances of life, if you're looking back, then you're living in the past. But the trick is to look through the windshield and keep your eye on the big picture with a forward look, and keep your eye on the prize, and not allow the circumstances, because the circumstances, if you allow them, would defeat you. But you don't have to stay under the circumstances. And that's why we set goals. That's why we look through the windshield of life. That's why we keep our eye on a forward motion, looking towards the future, and not looking over the shoulder to the past, looking in the rearview mirror. Always live with a forward motion, a forward look. And so that's why we're here. So, well, thank you everybody for coming today, and I hope that, you know, that something we shared was helpful for you today. So have a great week.
Thank you, Dan. You've had so many valuable nuggets. I can't write fast enough today, and I'm so happy that I got to be a part of today with all of you and everybody that's listening in.
Oh, thanks, guys. You all had so many wonderful things, and I do want to repeat that quote that Vicki said, the acronym for PAIN. Pay attention pay attention inwardly now. Sorry, my handwriting is atrocious. But, you know, I thought, you know, that is the biggest key with what we've been talking about right now, you know, throughout this book, is just recognizing the things as they come up in your life, you know, because like not too long ago, my husband and I got into an argument, and, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, where, you know, you have a family, or you have a family member that you know, you'll have a conversation with, and they'll push a button or whatever, you know, and it causes you to just be upset. And you're not even entirely sure why, but you end up going through the motions of having this, you know, argument with this person, regardless of how serious that actual topic is. You still find yourself mad at one another, and it's through this habitual, you know, we kind of create these habitual emotional responses. And when you start to feel pain, like Vicki was talking about, that discomfort in whatever that situation is that you're having, when you can start to look inwardly and find out what is the real root cause of this, that is when you begin to make serious changes in your life. And so when I was having this argument with my husband, you know, I realized that half of it was just all about, you know, this stuff that was stuck in me. I was upset with myself for some of the same things he was upset with me about, you know, but I was frustrated with my own self. And when I was able to kind of recognize, okay, you know, he's just expressing his feelings. He's not really, like, you know, lashing out at me like I'm a horrible person or anything. He's actually kind of getting me to look at myself, you know, and I was able to kind of look deeper in there, like, you know, yeah, I have been kind of working on this, I have been working on that, and these are things that I need to be working on. And you know, and just realizing that, you know, you don't have to take everything so personally, in that, you know, I mean, when you have that argument with somebody, is that you can actually use that as a growing experience. Hopefully that is clear what I'm trying to get across. but anyway, it took the heat out of that conversation that we had, because I all of a sudden I was just like, wait a second, you know, I'm not really mad at him, you know, I'm mad at myself. You know? So anyway, I wanted to just kind of read through some of the comments that we have on the event before we wrap up. I just want to say thank you for everybody that's here hanging out with us. Karen and Rose and Jackie, thank you for your comments. Karen wrote on here, thank you, Dan. I was told over and over that I wasn't worth the powder to blow myself to hell and back, that I was dumb and lazy, etc., etc. I failed every class in high school and dropped out at age 18. Then I went directly to get my GED and scored 3% higher than the graduating seniors. I constantly told myself I was smart and that I am intelligent, and I am. I never gave up, never will. Good for you, Karen. That is such a great attitude to have. And you know, I think it's important to realize that, you know, a lot of times people will say things in a hurtful way, and of course they aren't meaning to, you know, dog you out in such a way that it just destroys you. They don't even realize what they're doing because they're so caught up in whatever's going on inside of themselves that they, you know, same thing that we as parents have probably done. I know, Catherine, you were talking at the beginning of the call how, you know, you always told your kids they could do anything that they wanted, and yet you passed on the poverty mindset, you know, and I've done the exact same thing, you know, and it was, you know, we do the best that we can with what we have from where we are, and I think it's important to understand that, you know, that's all you can do, and just work towards creating what is you want in your life, and, you know, not beat yourself up so much of what you've done in the past. And so with that, guys, I just want to wrap up this call. I hope you all got value from this, and thank you again to everybody who's hanging out with us. And again, I will post the consciousness engineering replay as well as the 6-phase guided meditation. I'll put that in our Google Plus community, so it'll always be available to you, or you can just scroll down here on the event page and find the links to that. But I strongly encourage you guys to check out that seminar, because it was just absolutely enlightening for me. And I know, Vicki, you watched it as well and got a lot out of it too. So with that, guys, have a great day. Meet us over in mindsetmasterycollective.com. That's our Google Plus community. And with that, have an awesome, amazing, wonderful Saturday afternoon, and we'll see you again next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind at 10 a.m. Eastern. Bye for now.